Here's the original. And we have a variation for this video. Hi, I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of 10 Waltz Walking with Elephants, such a classic. We have a fully arranged track here, only using Ableton stock effects and instruments plus Serum, different harmonies, different melodies, and PML sounds, reverse engineering the style to learn the thinking behind the style. And we have a fully arranged track with an intro. And the retro strings, and then and the kicks and toms coming in, and then we get the rimshots, which is the snare. And then we have this signature bass coming in the drop. Which we modeled with Serum in this case. And then we have the drop strings. And we modeled those with household elements here with Serum and a bunch of Ableton packs. If you have a better string pack, feel free to fill that in. And then we get into the bridge. And then into the break. And then you get this analog lead on top that pitches up. And then we're playing the full battery of strings and shakers, then we get the drop strings. A couple of years ago I made a video on Sparta, also by 10 Waltz, made that on Production Music Live with household elements as well, and somebody just commented 10 hours ago, hey, please do updated version. So here we are, there's the updated version. This is part of the timeless sound pack on Production Music Live with some timeless electronic tracks. And before we go through the elements one by one, let's have a quick listen to the group. So this is our drums group. Or maybe here. And then we bring the full battery. And maybe this hi-hat here is a bit too harsh. We can turn down some saturation on this. I felt this just now. Bring it down for now. And this is our drums group, so super snappy, super clean. And then in the instruments, we have the combination of our bass melody and the strings. And we have all types of cinematic strings playing here, but we just need to fill out the frequency range. And then we have an effects group here. You know, with noise and uplifters and also this type of noise. So we're using white noise as snare elements, and then in the break part we have another noise. some white noise playing. We also have this reverb send effect, 1.47 seconds, and we also have a sends channel where we are sidechaining this to the kick. So we are sending this reverb into the send effect and then onto the master. And on the master, we just have compression, 2 saturators, which I turned off. I felt they were maybe a little hot for this video, and then a limiter behind that. So not much going on, but if you want to have it punch more, you can turn those saturators back on. They are just adding a little bit of drive. You'll find them in a project file, links in the description. And now let's take a look at the elements one by one, and we're starting with the kick here in this area in the back. So very snappy and short kick, you know. And at times we are sort of high passing it with activating this effect rack here. And then another super important thing for this groove to work is the tom. So I'm copying over the tom. Now you almost have half the bass groove already, and a very clean tom is required here. The MIDI patterns are simple kick pattern, and the tom is playing in the 4th position of the first beat and then repeating there. And sometimes our kick is serving as this sort of snare roll as well. So this is very straightforward in this track, just 16th notes here, and then you high pass them. Then you get this effect, and also we have this like second kick type, high kick type element, which is also important, and it's playing in between the notes here. What is it doing? So this is working as a top kick in some ways, if you play it together with the kick. And that's how you achieve a bass groove. And together with the tom. Clean bass groove going, and now we just need that rim shot in the clap position, and we're good to go. All these drum sounds samples are in the Timeless Volume 1 sample pack part here as well, with loops and one-shots. That's where you can go pick those up. And then you have these, this is our foundation of the track. And we'll take a look at the other shakers and stuff in a second, but just wanted to emphasize that we are basically done now, because we just need to get the bass, well, in parentheses, we need to just get the bass right, and you're good to go. If I'm using the original MIDI now, there's our track. And I can't play this longer because YouTube content ID might pick up on it otherwise, and that might be a bit annoying. So, because then you'll see ads next to this or in this video. We want to avoid that. So I'm taking the other MIDI information. So this is basically the pattern. You're starting with the low note and then you're going an octave higher. And then sometimes you also play the third on top, and another time the third on top. And we are just going down here. And now, how's the sound design on this one, on this particular one? I'm making an exception and moving to the instruments for this one quickly. So we can see we have it layered from 2 Serum elements. In this case, you can model the sound with Diva, you can model it with Ableton household instruments, you can model it with brass sound. There's different ways of doing it. We wanted to do it with Serum here, so that's how it's set up. We have an upper layer, which sounds this way. I'm actually going to solo it quickly. So we are in the basic shapes, somewhere in between the saw wave and what is that? The square wave, and we're somewhere in the middle of that, and we're playing 3 voices. You can see the wavetable position right here. And again, in the basic shapes, we are playing 3 voices. By the way, both are playing an octave down. This one is fine-tuned up a bit. And in this case, we have the bend activated down here, bend plus minus, which sort of brings in this curvature. And here we have the asim plus minus activated, which brings in this kink. And detuning is set to roughly 10:30, 11 o'clock for both of them. Blend is set to 75. All these things are important, and then we start getting those moving by automating the bend curvature and the asymmetrical. If I quickly turn off the sidechain here. And how are they being sort of automated? We are using LFO2 here to quickly shoot them up and then bring them back down. And if we look at the matrix, we can see, well, mod wheel. This one here is bringing the filter cutoff up in certain instances towards the end of the pattern to just have it open up at the end. We have LFO2 controlling the warp of oscillator A and B, what we just looked at here in this part. And we have envelope 2 also controlling the filter, envelope 2 controlling the filter. So that's an MG low pass filter with both oscillators going in, and we are opening it up with sort of a quick shape with an attack of, 76 milliseconds, keeping a decay of 300 and something, and the release is pretty low down. So the attacks are something that you have to play around with to sort of get the snappiness of the sound right here. And then you have to do something similar with your amplifier envelope, the one that controls the overall amplifier, which also needs to, that's a bit of messing around and then listening back and seeing if you got it. And then we are giving it a bit of reverb in here. We are giving it a bit of dimension expansion. And we are also adding in a little bit of distortion. And that is how you need a bit of saturation and distortion on the sound. So we also add this a bit warmer effect from Ableton here as well. Let me quickly go through the chain. We're just cleaning up the lows on this upper part of the sound, because the lower one, this one is taking care of our bass. This one is more taking care of the higher frequencies. That's why we're using 3 voices on both sides. This is kind of the trombone brass type sound that we want to achieve here. And the decay time is a very small room here in Ableton, but we have a bit bigger room with the one that we are adding in from Serum. So this is also something that you have to then go back and listen to the reference track and then try to mix it in as much as it fits. There's no exact science here because Mario Basanov, 10 Walls, probably didn't even, well, back then Serum wasn't even out, so he didn't use Serum to make this sound. The second sound beautiful. This one is using the ICANN has kick wavetable. Both oscillators are an octave down, pitched slightly differently here. And this one is also, by the way, on both sounds, slightly moving. So the fine tuning on the B oscillator to sort of give this analog vibe to it. You know, it's not stable somehow. It's moving a little bit with this shape here, but ever so slightly applied. So envelope 2, again controlling the filter, same setup as the other sound. We don't want to mess up our attacks now. And envelope 3 also controlling our filter, but just giving that a quick bump at the beginning. And what else? We have the mod wheel again controlling the filter cutoff. That's again at the end of the pattern. That's this one. It's basically this note here. Okay, and EQ rolling off this resonant frequency here, and then we are entering a similar reverb setup and dimension expansion setup on the sound, and we have 3 voices in oscillator A, and we have 1 voice playing in oscillator B. And we're not that low down in the frequency range. We're taking care of the lowest frequencies with our kick and our tom sound. And so what else is happening? We are cleaning up the frequencies around 100, but this also has to be seen in context with everything else that's going on. And then we are doing a bit of mid-side EQ if I'm turning this one off. We have a lot of bass information on the side if we don't do this. And we have 3 voices here, and you could argue, hey, but don't you want to do more mono in the sub-frequencies? That's exactly what this EQ is doing here. It's cutting the stereo information out of it in the low frequencies, and it keeps it in the mids and in the low mids, and it also removes it in the highs. And then we have a copy of that 495 milliseconds reverb. And behind it, we are adding a bit of saturation. Then we clean up a frequency that was, you know, messing with other stuff. And then on top of all of these, of both of these instances, now we're outside of the group here. This one is our sidechain. That's kind of your LFO tool. On top of all of this, we are adding the wooden room reverb on both the lower and the higher sound. And then we are cleaning up high frequencies. So bringing back both. Because we want it a little bit more muffled. These frequencies are going to be taking care of our drum elements. So let's listen to it all together, because this is essentially what you need to make this track work. And everything else, this is your dance track. You're good to go. Play this on a dance floor. It's going to work. And everything else that we add on top now is just bonus and nice to sort of have an arrangeable track. So I'm going back. Let's throw in a bunch of shakers. Shaker 1 sounds like this. you know, velocities up and down with the 16th notes pattern. This one here is a bit late, as you can see. So I'm throwing this onto the sound. Sounds almost a bit wrong if you just play this one. Let's add in another one. And another shaker. Nice. Here you can see it's not a coincidence. These have been placed offsetting to account, well, reference to the original track, but to account for certain intricate inconsistencies. Weird wording here. Let's go to one that's a bit more stable. This is something that you can achieve with setting an auto pan to ran pan, or you do it manually. And now none of these shakers and hats were actually sitting on the grid, because so far our kick, snare and tom and these bass notes are super on grid, and now we need something that's sort of a bit shuffly around them. To, you know, to give you this more organic feeling around it. And below this we have this hat loop here. Let's listen to this one. Yeah, this one is nice because it's from the Afro House kit actually, but all these sounds are also part of the project file. It's called Road, that is in this Timeless Volume 1 pack. Okay, one more shaker loop. Yeah, it's a nice one as well. This one is a bit more straightforward, but also has a little bit of swing. And then we have this hat loop. Now this one is even bringing an off hi-hat with it. So all together. We are not mixing these too loudly in there because we want the key drum elements to really take the center stage, and these are just side gigs. Okay, open hi-hat for the drive. So what does that mean? Third position. With a lot of texture. This is the dirty one. That's the one I mixed more quietly. This one's really adding dirty texture. And it's also very long because this tail here goes on forever, and this one is going together with the ride sound. The ride sound out of the D Premium Volume 4 drum sample pack from PML. Also a very long tail here. We need this for those, you know, emphasized more driving parts. The artist, the original artist, is not playing those for the most time in the arrangement here, but when certain drops want to be emphasized, then this is being added in to add an, you know, to tell everybody basically on the dance floor, this is what I mean by climax. Here is where I want everybody to dance. This is the climax. so these are the main drum elements plus the main synth. And now we can quickly go through some of the other elements in our instruments group. Super nice are these analog leads here on top. So you have one voice and a noise. And well, we have a bunch of, you have one note and a noise. We have a bunch of saw waves here stacked next to one another in 11 to 4. This one is an octave higher than that one. This one is playing louder than that one. And we have an attack of 100 milliseconds and then a longer release time on the sound. Everything gets sent through the filter. We just need this as tension string on top of everything. Mod wheel controlling the filter in the effects section, so this MG low 18. And here we are controlling the cutoff with the mod wheel, and this is what's being automated. So it's kind of like this brass that's loud in the beginning and then going down. And now it's making room. Going off stage and making room for the next protagonist, which is lead analog 2. And this one is now playing an octave higher. It's sort of a similar sound. It's almost the same setup here. And now what we are doing is, again, we are using the mod wheel to control the filter frequency, but then we are also using the pitch bend, which is the second wheel here. And the pitch bend is going up an octave. It's first of all going slowly up, a bit, I don't know, a semitone or something. And then it quickly goes up an octave. So it picks up on this note that we just had in the other synth setup and that we sort of faded out a bit or filtered out a bit, and then it picks up on that one and brings it up an octave higher. And this again gets picked up by this string solo element, which is playing the same note. What is the note, by the way? It's A sharp, because we're a semitone higher than the original track. The original track is an A minor. We are now in A sharp. And it's picking up on the root note that's, you know, being played by both these. And we're first of all picking it up. We're keeping that one stable up there. And then we are playing some kind of melody here. So here we have a minor chord set up. This is a synthesizer acting as a lead string instrument thing. Nothing crazy. If you want to take a look at how it's synthesized, here's the setup. Bit of filter cutoff controlled by envelope 2, LFO1 and LFO1 both times controlling the warp section here, which is kind of similar to what we are doing in our bass sound. So we have, you know, a sound setup that uses two waveforms and wavetables that are also being used to model our bass. our bass melody, and we're picking up on the same sounds. This is kind of, you know, to make your track sound consistent. Actually going to put this sidechain back in now. And yeah, and now we have a bunch of sort of pizzicato, staccato type violin things, where it's more like staccato, not pizzicato. So here's an imported string wavetable or violin wavetable, and we're basically trying to make Serum sound like a violin. Now, if you have a native instruments string thing, just use that. Replace this track and use that. And I would say that for all the elements that are going to come up now. We're just, you know, playing thirds here and going along with the chord progression that we had, or with the melody that we had. And, you know, I can show you all these string sounds now, but these are basically easily replaceable by something that is actually built to be a string. So we need this width of the, in this case we used a sampler, a string sampler, and now we need wide, many voices, these kinds of strings, and we're combining two. For the high parts, and for the lower parts. And so again, this is so you can download this project file and use it with Ableton and Serum only. By the way, it works with Ableton 11.1 or higher. And but if you're like, hey, I have better strings, put them in there, it's fine. Here's another string setup with Serum. Again, we are using this warp knob here to make basic shapes sound with lots of voices sound like they're strings. And in order to make them sound a bit more organic, you want to have them moving, because if they're too static, it's getting pretty obvious that this is a synthesizer. And then we have another string thing here that's just a recorded high string to make, you know, to add in a bit of this organic feel, and it sounds a bit wacky at times even. Just for the feels up there. And then we have this other element here, retro. I'm skipping through these because I don't think it's that important to the, you know, to modeling 10 walls. Adding in this texture. And sending them all through this reverb here on return channel A. And here we have a group of string ensembles. Those are the orchestral strings that come with Ableton. Oh no, that's a synthesized one, sorry. This is also coming with Ableton, but it's synthesized. Basically giving you 10 different options here to use something that's a synthesizer or a sample as a string. Different voices in this one. And yeah, let's skip right through the effects section. Here we have this stable noise on top of everything in the drop string part. just alpha noise in the noise oscillator, high pass, nothing crazy going on, an EQ cutting off the very highs. This is something we're doing here again and emphasizing on this frequency to blend it into the mix. There's a sidechain on the effects group, and then we have this one here. This is a nice effect. You can always try to use that in your productions, going on to with something like the kick pattern or a slightly different one. So basically a noise setup like a plug sound. Also alpha noise, envelope, 1, looks like this, very short. And then you play around with the release. So the mod wheel in this case is messing around with decay and release of envelope number 1. And also with the frequency of the filter here in the effects section. And this is the bass pattern. So you go. And it's a nice trick because you've been playing this bass for a while in this track, and now just by adding in this noise on top, you can make the bass appear as if its filter being opened up. Even if that would never sound this way, you can use the noise to make it appear this way. Nice, and you combine it with an uplifter. So that's a noise that's being filtered up. And we give this more belly. In the EQ setup. Okay, so we are through with the elements and quickly taking a summary here. What do we need? We need a clean kick sound to set up our bass, and then we need to combine that kick sound with a tom sound this way. And then you need a high kick element that is adding in these rhythmical parts. And now you also need a rimshot, not a snare, not a clap, but and then you can add in a bunch of shakers to make it sound, I don't know, fuller and more groovy. And then for the peak time parts, you have these longer rides. And then for everything, for filling out the frequency range, you add a whole bunch of shakers, more hat loops, and then the opened hi-hat as well. So this is the important stuff in the drums, and then in our bass, we basically, in this case, have this bass melody that's being layered out of 2 Serum instances. In this case, again, you can model this in many different ways, but the way we do it here is we have an upper part, and the upper part has a bit of room. And movement in the wavetables, so it feels a bit more analog, and also movement in the fine-tuning of the oscillators. So it feels a bit unstable and wacky. Send this through saturation and combine it with a low element that's a bit more clean and on point. Attacks and release and decay times are what you really need to work on to get this sitting nicely, and it's different with every synth that you're using because not every attack is reacting the same way. And so if we have this brassy main theme, main melody, bass with sharp attacks set up, we just need epic strings basically on top. And nothing, well, you know, maybe these leads, these pitched leads could be emphasized on, but you don't need any crazy stuff here. And below that, we are entering in cinematic strings and staccato violins. And we used pretty basic ones here with Serum and with Ableton stock elements, so you can use this without having to install half of the plugins that are available worldwide. So you could do this differently, in short. And then you just need a bunch of noise elements for, you know, noise in the background, for uplifting and for emphasizing on something that could also be done with a snare. So, in my opinion, fantastic style, super nice track. You can always go back and play that in a DJ set. It never really sounds old. Take a look at the link in the description for this sound pack, including this file and a bunch of very nice other ones. Also, take a look at the description for the Everything bundle. That is the full collection of all PML sound packs. It's an incredible deal. And in it, you will also find the Deep Premium Drum Sample Pack series that we used for some of these drum elements here as well. And it also contains courses in our online academy part where you could, for example, take a look at the music theory for electronic music course for melodic techno, melodic house, these types of genres. Feel free to take a look at the links in the description to check that out. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll talk to you again soon. Let's have a full playthrough.